Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're diving into a gripping story of betrayal, hidden motives, and a sister's dark plan. What would you do if someone in your own family tried to quietly erase you and blame someone else for it? Stay tuned, because this episode reveals how Uri uncovers the truth and risks everything to protect Tu Tieu. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the next chapter. The kitchen door gave a slow, uneasy creak as it swung open. Evening light spilled across the tiles, and from the doorway stepped Lynn. Her smile stretched tight, like she'd stitched it onto her face moments earlier. "I just came to visit Tu Tieu," she said softly, almost sweetly, but Uri moved before she could take another step. He positioned himself between her and the hallway leading to the bedrooms. His eyes narrowed, voice sharp enough to cut the air. "Visit? Then why sneak in through the back door instead of knocking at the front?" Lynn blinked fast, like she'd been caught by surprise. "Uri, you're overthinking. Tu Tieu is my sister. She's sick. I came to check on her." Even as she spoke, her tone wavered. Something about the room felt wrong, like every breath carried tension. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. Uri took a slow step forward, closing the space between them. "And what about the sleeping pills?" he asked, voice low and controlled. "The ones in her medicine? What exactly were you hoping for?" The question landed like a blow. Lynn's face drained of color. Her lips parted, searching for an excuse, and finally, she exhaled shakily. "Fine. I put the sleeping pills in, but it wasn't my idea. Mother told me. She said it was for Tu Tieu's good, to help her rest." Uri's jaw tightened. He stared at her with dark, unbelieving eyes, his expression hardening like stone. "Don't lie to me," he muttered. "Don't you dare." The fireplace crackled behind them, but instead of warmth, the room carried a cold bite. Lynn swallowed, afraid to move. "I'm telling the truth," she insisted. "She's our mother. Tu Tieu's biological mother. Why would she ever want to hurt her own daughter?" Uri's voice dropped to something dangerous, something final. "Because both of you care more about the farm and the company than you ever cared about family." For a moment, neither spoke. Only the fire popped, and the wind outside brushed against the windows. Uri's glare didn't soften. Instead, his voice sharpened like a blade. "If you ever touch Tu Tieu again, if you even walk near her room, I won't spare you." Lynn's throat tightened. "Uri, you're being dramatic." But he was done listening. "Get out," he snapped. "Now." She stood frozen. His words, colder than winter steel, pressed her backward. Her body reacted before her mind could. The kitchen suddenly felt suffocating, like a cage closing around her ribs. She forced a step toward the exit, then another. Her shoes scraped the floor, sounding louder than normal, as though the house itself was listening. "Uri," she said again, voice trembling. "I'm her sister. I have the right to visit." Uri lifted a hand and pointed to the door. "Out, before I decide to call security, or before I personally drag you to your mother's company and fire you in front of every employee you like to boss around." Lynn's eyes widened. Fear flashed. Anger followed, but it was swallowed quickly by something deeper. Guilt. Not guilt for what she'd done, but guilt for being caught. She turned away, step unsteady, shoulders shaking. The hallway swallowed her like a tunnel of shadows. Each footstep faded into the house until there was nothing left but the stillness and the echo of betrayal. Uri remained rooted in place. He didn't rush after her, didn't breathe out victory. Instead, he stood silent, muscles tense, fists curled tight at his sides. His chest rose and fell slowly, controlled, because his anger wasn't wild. It was precise, focused. He was protecting Tu Tieu, and nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to change that. A deep breath finally escaped him, sharp and weary. The weight of everything settled onto his shoulders. Tu Tieu had been unconscious for hours. She had trusted Lin. She had trusted her mother. And yet, the truth was uglier than either of them could have imagined. The sleeping pills weren't an accident. They weren't a misunderstanding. Lin had said the words herself. She admitted it. The confession hung in the air like smoke, impossible to wave away. It twisted everything, revealing a betrayal with teeth. And the cruelest part was that it wasn't just about jealousy or anger. It was about power, the farm, the company, the inheritance, their lives. Uri stared at the half-open kitchen door, the evening breeze slipping inside. He felt the sting of rage burning beneath his calm exterior. He thought about Tu Tieu, fragile, breathing lightly in her room, unaware of how close she had been to danger. He whispered to himself, one promise, quiet but absolute. I won't let them hurt you. The silence returned, heavy and suffocating. For a moment, Uri leaned against the counter, closing his eyes. The world outside was peaceful. Crickets singing, night settling in. But inside this house, there was a war no one else could see. A war made of lies, deceit, and family knives pointed backward. Lin's trembling voice replayed in his head. Her excuses, her fake innocence, her subtle threats wrapped as explanations. She believed her title as older sister gave her control. But Uri was done playing polite. He paced the kitchen, mind racing. The sleeping pills were only the beginning. If Lin dared to walk into this house with a plan, then there was more coming. Something worse. He needed to move Tu Tieu, needed to protect her, needed to figure out how far Lin and the woman she called mother were willing to go. Because people like them didn't stop once they took the first step. He knew it, and a chill shivered through him, colder than the night air. When he looked up again, the house seemed different. Bigger, quieter. Yet everything pulsed with hidden threat. He walked to Tu Tieu's room. His footsteps softened as he approached, as though the floor itself shouldn't disturb her. He touched the door, listening to her slow breathing inside. Something warm tugged inside his chest. He wasn't just protecting her home. He was protecting her, the girl who trusted too easily, who saw hope where others saw greed, who believed family meant love and safety. Uri whispered through the door, I'll keep you safe, no matter where we have to go. And deep in his heart, a seed of decision took root. If he couldn't stop Lin and her mother here, then he would take Tu Tieu far away, somewhere the shadows of betrayal couldn't follow. Somewhere they could start over, happy, quiet, free. A place where Tu Tieu could finally breathe. A place where Uri didn't have to watch the door every second. He exhaled, steadying himself. Tonight, he had won a small battle. But the war was only beginning. He turned away, heading back to the kitchen. The fire still burned, but the chill remained. Somewhere outside, Lin was already calling her mother, already planning her next move. The house felt temporary now, like a shelter that could collapse at any moment. But Uri wasn't afraid. His fear had turned into resolve, solid and burning bright. Tu Tieu mattered, more than the farm, more than the company, more than any inheritance. And Yuri would do whatever it took to protect her, no matter the cost. Night deepened, folding over the farm like a heavy blanket. The last traces of sunlight sank behind the hills, and every window in the house glowed with soft yellow light. Yet to Yuri, there was nothing comforting about it. Light only made the shadows sharper. He sat at the edge of Tu Tieu's bed, watching her breathe. Her lashes trembled as if she were caught in a faraway dream, unaware of how close she had come to a nightmare. A strand of hair brushed her cheek, and Yuri gently tucked it behind her ear. He should have woken her. He should have told her the truth, that her own sister had let herself into the house with sleeping pills hidden in medicine bottles. That betrayal was living inside their family like poison. But Tu Tieu had suffered enough. Tonight, she needed rest. Tomorrow, everything would change. Yuri shifted his gaze to the window. The sky was starless, a slate of dark. Somewhere along the dirt road outside, a car engine turned over. Tires rolled slowly over gravel. His heartbeat picked up. Was it Lynn coming back? Or someone worse? He stood, walked quietly to the door, and peered down the hallway. Nothing. The house remained silent. The sound faded. Maybe just a passing traveler. Or maybe someone scouting the property in the dark. He couldn't take chances anymore. Downstairs, he brewed more chamomile tea, not for sleep, but for warmth. The kettle hissed, filling the kitchen with steam. He grabbed a notebook from the counter and began writing. There was no room left for hesitation. Step 1. Move Tu Tieu out of the house, temporarily. A friend in the next town had an empty guest cabin. Quiet, far from the road. No one would suspect she was there. Step 2. Gather evidence. The medicine bottle with residue. The hidden camera by the hallway door, installed weeks ago after the first time Lynn came unexpectedly. And now, her own verbal confession. Even if she tried to deny everything, Yuri wasn't playing blind anymore. As he wrote, a sharp thought cut through the calm. If Lynn had been bold enough to drug her sister, then she wouldn't stop at that. This wasn't an isolated attempt. It was part of a strategy. Money, inheritance, ownership. Lynn didn't want to share. She wanted everything. And there was something else, something darker. Yuri remembered the fear in her eyes, but he also remembered the cold calculation when she first walked in. Lynn wasn't improvising. She was following steps. Sleeping pills were just the first one. There would be a second and a third. And when pills didn't work anymore, accidents had a way of doing the job. A fall down the stairs, a car that lost its brakes, a gas leak in the middle of the night. And when Tu Tieu was gone, when the house went quiet, who would be left to blame? Yuri, the outsider, the one who wasn't family, the one who suddenly inherited everything after her death. He could almost hear Lynn's voice explaining it to the police with fake tears. I warned them he was dangerous, but they didn't listen. Yuri's jaw clenched. Not happening. Not in this lifetime. The clock struck midnight, echoing through the house like a warning. Yuri packed a small bag. Clothes for Tu Tieu, her favorite scarf, her sketchbook. He didn't know how long they would be gone, but he would make it work. They could sleep in a truck if they had to. Better alive in a pickup than dead in their own home. He walked upstairs again and touched her shoulder gently. Tu Tieu, he whispered. Wake up, just for a moment. Her eyelids fluttered. She groaned softly, exhausted from the drugs still lingering in her veins. Uri, what's wrong? He forced a soft smile. We're going on a small trip, just for a few days. Somewhere quiet. Even half asleep, she heard the edge in his voice. Is Lynn coming? No, he answered quickly, voice firm. No one's coming near you. He helped her sit up, wrapped a blanket around her, and guided her to the door. Every step felt like crossing a tightrope. Every shadow looked like someone waiting. In the driveway, his truck sat under the moonlight. A sturdy old vehicle, dented at the edges but reliable. He helped her into the passenger seat and closed the door gently. But before he could get into the driver's seat, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. He opened it. Taking her away won't save her. Accidents can happen anywhere. No signature, no name. But the message felt like Lynn's handwriting, even through a screen. Sharp, precise, venomous. Uri stared at the glowing text for several seconds. His breath chilled. She knew. She knew they were leaving. Someone was watching. Somewhere in the dark, eyes were on them. He slid into the driver's seat, locked the doors, and started the engine. Gravel spat beneath the tires as he pulled onto the dirt road, leaving the farmhouse shrinking in the rearview mirror. Tu Tieu leaned her head against his shoulder, whispering, Did Lynn do something again? This time, he chose honesty. Yes, and it's not going to stop. Silence. A painful, heavy silence. Minutes passed. The road stretched ahead. Empty, silent, endless. The night wind brushed against the truck, rattling the windows. Tu Tieu finally spoke, voice small. Uri, I don't understand. Lynn is my sister, my own blood. How could she? That woman doesn't care about family. Uri cut in gently. She cares about power, about money, and she's not doing this alone. Tu Tieu's fingers tightened around the blanket. You think she wants to kill me? Uri didn't answer immediately. He didn't need to. His silence was the answer. Tu Tieu's breath hitched. Tears formed in her eyes. Not loud tears, but the silent kind that slipped down cheeks and carried years of heartbreak. Uri reached across the seat, took her hand, and squeezed. I'm here. As long as I'm breathing, no one touches you. Her tearful eyes lifted toward him. Weary, shaken. Uri, I don't want to lose everything my mother worked for. I don't want to run forever. We won't, he said. But right now, surviving is winning. Staying alive is winning. The truck rolled through the dark, leaving the world behind. Trees passed like black silhouettes. The road narrowed, then opened again. Minutes later, headlights appeared far behind them. Small pinpoints of light, then growing brighter. A car was following. Uri's pulse spiked. Hold on. He pressed the gas pedal. The engine roared, the speedometer rising. The car behind stayed steady, matching his pace. Not random, not accidental. Someone was chasing them. Tu Tieu turned, fear shooting through her voice. Who is that? Uri, who is that? He didn't answer. He focused on the road, eyes sharp. The farm had long disappeared behind them, but danger hadn't. The car behind accelerated. Uri swerved onto a side path, a narrow road leading toward the hills. The truck bounced violently, shaking Tu Tieu, but it held. The headlights disappeared. For a moment, all was silent. Then slowly, Uri exhaled. It's okay. We lost them. But he didn't believe it, not even for a second. Because people like Lynn didn't give up. They didn't walk away. They hunted. Just as he parked beside a silent stretch of pine trees, his phone vibrated again. One new message. "You can't protect her forever, Yuri." His stomach twisted. Tu Tieu leaned against him, exhausted, trembling. He wrapped an arm around her, sheltering her from the cold air. "We're going to make it," he whispered. "We're going to build a life where they can't reach us." But deep in his chest, he knew the truth. This was only the beginning. Lynn's plan wasn't just about drugs or threats. She was building a story, one where Tu Tieu dies in an accident and Uri becomes the villain who caused it. A fake tragedy, a fake motive, a perfect crime, unless Yuri fought back, not just by running, but by exposing every piece of their scheme. When dawn finally broke, Yuri looked toward the horizon and made a silent vow. Lynn wanted war. She was about to get one. The story unfolds inside a quiet farmhouse where secrets have started to rot beneath the surface. Lynn sneaks in, pretending to visit her sick sister, Tu Tieu. But Uri confronts her and forces the truth out. Lynn put sleeping pills into Tu Tieu's medicine. It wasn't an accident. It was the first step of a larger plan to take control of the family farm and company. Uri realizes the danger is far deeper than poisoning. If Tu Tieu dies, the blame could easily fall on him. To protect her, he decides they must flee before a staged accident happens. Late that night, Uri takes Tu Tieu away, but a mysterious car follows and threatening messages appear. It becomes clear Lynn and her mother will stop at nothing. What begins as a family dispute turns into a dangerous war for survival.